Let's bring in now Shaharzad Akbar. She's the chairperson of the Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commission, and she joins us now live from Kabul. Good to have you on the show. The hope behind the U.S. deal with the Taliban was that it might open the way for a lasting ceasefire, a much needed ceasefire in the country. This attack, which comes at the end of a particularly violent week, has perhaps showed that there is more chaos, more fear than actual hope.
Yes, unfortunately, the attack yesterday comes at the end of, as you said, a violent week in a violent month of Ramadan, holy month of Ramadan for Afghans. We have had high numbers of civilian casualties across the country, attacks on civilians, including young people in Logar who are students, and now this latest attack in the Hazara neighborhood in Kabul, directly targeting civilians and children. And it's very difficult for Afghans to have any hope for peace in the midst of this ongoing violence that keeps taking lives.
You have mentioned it. Our report mentions it. Many of the victims are schoolgirls. I mean, with this targeting of girls in this attack, how concerned are you that this U.S. troop withdrawal would leave women and their educational rights and social gains particularly vulnerable?
Well, there's a lot of concern about what the future holds for Afghan women in light of not only the ongoing violence, but also the views that Taliban held about women and their place in society. And Afghans have raised these concerns repeatedly. I think what really would make a difference moving forward is depending on the level of international engagement with Afghanistan in the months ahead. Beyond just military presence, of course, assistance and attention and continuous push for peace talks, meaningful peace talks that will provide opportunities for women to participate meaningfully is what can still make a difference as we move forward.
The neighborhood where this attack occurred is home to many from the Hazara minority community, and this is a community that is no stranger to being targeted as well. How do you think their future looks?
Unfortunately, we have had a series of attacks on this community, on civilians in this community, training centers, gymnasium, demonstrations, schools. It's a community that feels particularly vulnerable. In discussions around the peace process in the future, they have expressed a lot of anxiety about what the future might hold for them, but also more broadly for minorities in Afghanistan, in a peace process that is looking more and more like it's really not moving forward. But even if it does, it looks like it will be an elite bargain where the voices of people who will be most affected is not likely to be heard unless there's serious changes in the format and in the way it has been designed.
As a human rights campaigner, what do you want to see moving forward?
Ceasefire, first of all and foremost. The Commission has been calling for a ceasefire repeatedly. The environment of war has become uglier. Civilians die and no one takes responsibility, adding to the pain of the victims. The first thing that needs to happen is a ceasefire for all Afghans. We are exhausted by war. And then meaningful peace talks where different groups, different segments of the society, including women, minorities, are represented and their voices are heard, as well as the voice of victims of war, so that we can move from a culture of impunity, from continuous attacks on civilians, to something better for all Afghans.
All right, Shaharzad Akbar, thank you very much for joining us here on Chair to World. I do appreciate your analysis.